Hey guys, how's it going? So look, one of the first things I do every morning as I'm getting ready for my day, this is weekdays for this part, is I I check and see if an episode is posted for one of the video blogs that I watch called the National Real Estate Post. They've been putting out basically content every weekday going back to about the beginning of the financial crisis. It's been going on forever. Anyway, today they had a really interesting episode where they were talking about things that consumers hate about getting a mortgage. And they had someone from a big think tank on who does a lot of customer reviews and checks and sees and tells banks where they screwed up in their transactions, theoretically to try to make the process better, but a lot of them don't. Anyway, basically, this guy came out and said that roughly 1 in 5 consumers are not happy with their mortgage transaction that they got. Something that's really bad, really unacceptable that came out from all these surveys they do. In 1 in 3 mortgages, so a third of the time, the loan officer asks the client for stuff that the loan officer already has. Wow. So client gives you something, you forget, and you ask for it again, even though you already have it. Now, I'm not talking about the client gives you a document that's not acceptable, and so you ask for it again. I'm talking about client gave you what you needed, you have it, and because your processor or your underwriter asks for it, you're assuming that you don't have it and you ask for it again. It's just really just a horrible way to try to do business, guys. Whenever an underwriter comes to me and asks me for something, first of all, I see if I've already given it to them, and that happens to me too. But part of my job is to make this as transparent as possible for the client. And I will go back and fight tooth and nail with the underwriter to avoid hassling you when it comes to you in trying to get your home loan done. Anyway, another big complaint, one of the other biggest complaints that consumers have is that a lot of them say that the documents requested are not reasonable. Now that can be a little bit more subjective from that standpoint. There are things that we need today that I didn't need 15 years ago to get a mortgage. And so a lot of the documentation they force us to put together nowadays has to do with changes that have been put into place to try to prevent the perfect storm of the financial crisis from happening again. But yeah, there are some banks and lenders that ask for things that no sane person should ever want to see in one of these transactions. Anyway, if you have any questions, let me know. Something else super important that I posted on Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter earlier today, just in the last hour or so, there was an article from HousingWire about the CFPB talking about doing away with the 43% rule in the qualified mortgage. This is something that could have become a huge problem because the qualified mortgage patch that was letting Fannie and Freddie go over 43%, that was set to expire this coming January. And their regulator said that they were not going to push to have that, what we call the QM patch in the industry, that they were not going to get that renewed. So that was going to mean that a lot of people that are getting loans today, if they try to do the same thing a year from now, would have to be declined just based on the rules that are put into place under Dodd-Frank. So go back. You can, if you're watching this on Instagram, I can't post a link on Instagram. So you can find me on Facebook or LinkedIn, Twitter, and you can see the link to the article from HousingWire talking about this. This is a big deal, guys, because if that had gone through and we had lost the QM patch and Fannie and Freddie didn't have a way to go over 43% on the DTI because of that, it would have caused huge, huge problems with the housing market. especially in my area here. You know, you got a starter home starting at $500,000 in many areas or higher, and those debt to income ratios are getting stretched. Anyway, any questions, please let me know. I have a really exciting episode on my podcast coming out tomorrow. That's Wednesday the 22nd. I am interviewing someone who's on Team GaryVee, who you guys may have seen him in a keynote speech last year stand up and ask what it would take to get a job as a community manager there for Gary's team in New York. And he said, "You want to come to New York?" And this guy, his name is Zane, he said, "Yeah." And he was offered a job on the spot. Just fantastic fairy tale type situation. And you got to hear his story, guys. Okay. So tune into that tomorrow morning at 9. And if you have any questions on anything else, I am here to try to be a resource for you. Thank you.